Hey guys, I'm Candle and this is Gamer Reader Writer. One thing I've mentioned over the last couple weeks is the importance of setting goals for yourself in order to keep you on track during the writing process. Thanks to other writing YouTubers like Jenna Moreci and Vivian Reese, I've been making lists of my goals every 3 months or so. It's something I've been doing since the end of last year and it's working fairly well. Now, the whole point of this video is partially for personal accountability. That's actually the point of the goal list itself. But the main reason why I'm making this vlog is to hold myself accountable to all of you. So this is a list of writing and personal goals for the second quarter of 2017, April 1st through June 30th. If I've completed at least half of them, I'll consider that a success and get to give myself a pat on the back. And if I haven't, well, then I have to come on the internet and share my failure with all of you. Now, I actually keep my lists on my phone because it's always with me. That way I can take it everywhere, check it off whenever, and stuff like that, add stuff, and so on. So first up on the list was to write 15,000 words in Bloodless, my current manuscript. I have actually done this. It took me considerably longer than it was supposed to. Should have only taken a couple weeks at the most. Ended up taking almost 3 months, actually. The next goal was to reach 100,000 total words in my manuscript. I've actually just done this, and that is a huge accomplishment. Next up was to finish the rough draft for Bloodless. I have not done this, unfortunately. I'm still probably about 15,000 words away. I think I have something like 17 scenes left in my outline, so hopefully I should be able to get this done in the next couple weeks. Next up was to brainstorm ideas for the sequel to Bloodless, which is currently being called Bloodbound. I have a general idea of where I want to go with the story, but I don't have enough ideas actually thought up for the actual plot and everything yet, so I have not done this. Following that was I was supposed to outline Bloodbound. Again, because I haven't done the brainstorming, I haven't done the outlining yet. So past that was to brainstorm ideas for Haven, which is another secondary project I'm going to be working on in between different rounds of editing and drafting and so on for Bloodless. I was able to get some brainstorming done, but not enough. Still, I'll count it as a win for that. Then I was supposed to outline Haven. I did not do this. I've been focusing most of my writing time on trying to complete the rough draft of Bloodless, so everything else has kind of been tossed by the wayside. So next up was something that was contingent on finishing the rough draft, and that was actually doing the first read-through of the manuscript for Bloodless, where I would divide my chapters up properly and discover any big core issues with the plot and story and everything. Since I haven't finished the rough draft, I obviously haven't done this, nor have I done the next goal, which was to start the second full draft. However, the next goal after that I did in fact do. I got a new desk chair, which I desperately needed. The old one was creaky, it was very uncomfortable, and the hydraulic piston wasn't holding pressure so well anymore, so I would occasionally sink. So instead, I got the chair I'm sitting in now. Now, those gamers of you might be looking at it thinking it is a DX Racer chair. I looked at those, I really wanted one, but it was a bit out of my price range at like $300. So I took a look around on Amazon and eventually found kind of something very similar, but more of a budget, about like 130 bucks, from a brand called Mirax. And it's actually been doing pretty well. I've had it for a few weeks now. Next up was to drop my gaming backlog down to 275 titles. Now, I have a huge, massive gaming library, as I'm sure you can see some of it behind me. But a lot of those games are unfinished. I have, I think, over 1,000 titles in the library, and I have completed most of them, but I have close to 300 unfinished. And it does include like individual DLC packs and so on, as well as some duplicates, but it's still a pretty hefty number, and I started off the quarter at something like 289, I think, and I was able to get it all the way down to 277. Not enough to complete the goal, and at this point, I think I'm not going to really worry about knocking down that backlog so much because it's so massive, it's unlikely that it's going to happen for a very long time. So next up after that was to read the remaining books I had gotten from Christmas. Books are a huge present around Christmas time for my family, and my parents got me like 9 books or so, 5 of which I read during the first quarter. And I did in fact read another 2 books. I did not unfortunately read the last ones for a very specific reason. One of them, which you can see on the shelf behind me, Arcanum Unbound by Brandon Sanderson, is a collection of short stories from his Cosmere universe, which links all his different fantasy worlds together. The very last story in the book is a novella that takes place in the Stormlight Archive, the first of which was The Way of Kings. Now, both The Way of Kings and its sequel, Words of Radiance, were on my Amazon wish list, but my father only got me the second one, Words of Radiance. So I had to go back and get a copy of A Way of Kings and read through that before I read Words of Radiance. I'm actually halfway through Words of Radiance now, and once I finish that, then I can finish Arcana Unbounded. So the next one was more of try to being on a little bit of a health kick, was to walk 2 miles almost every day. I did this pretty well throughout April, but shortly into May, it started falling by the wayside. Just my schedule wasn't really working for it, and as much as I tried to go for a walk first thing in the morning, sometimes I had to be up super early in order to go into work, and other times I was just too tired or too sore or everything, so I ended up not being able to do this one. However, I did do the next one, which was sort of related, which was to run a quarter mile without stopping and slowing. Now, I'm not fat by any means, but neither am I in shape, and my endurance has always been particularly low. So I've been trying to build up my endurance a little bit, and I was able to run a quarter mile without stopping and slowing, and then shortly after that was when I kind of stopped walking. So I haven't done the next goal, which was to run half a mile without stopping or slowing. I did, however, get a PlayStation Vita and memory card, which is on my list. It was on there because it's something I've been wanting for a long time. I've been meaning to pick one up for a couple years and just hadn't gotten around to it. So I did finally do it. I've been able to finally play the Vita games that have been on my shelf for the last couple of years. I actually talked about them in the last gaming pickups video if you want to go check that out. And I also got some new shoes. That was also on my list. I was wearing through the soles of my own shoes. And funny story, I found out I've been wearing the wrong size of shoes for the last decade. Yeah, growing up, my mom always told me whenever you pick out a new pair of shoes, make sure you have a little bit extra toe room because they'll grow into them. Well, I kept doing that into adulthood even though I'd stopped growing. So I was constantly getting shoes that were half a size too big. And I finally realized, you know what? These don't feel quite right. Let's try half a size down. And they're actually doing pretty well. The next one on my list was to deep clean my apartment. Of course, this last quarter was springtime, so this was my spring cleaning. I was able to clean my kitchen, my bathroom, vacuum, dust, do everything I could to clean up my apartment. After that was getting a new bookcase. You might not be able to see it, but the wall of bookcases behind me is actually 5 bookcases long instead of 4. And the 5th one had books in it. Now, since I got a new bookcase to put in my bedroom along with the other 2 I already had, I've been able to spread my game collection out across this entire wall, and now I have all of my books in the bedroom except for the selection you see right here. After that was to brainstorm 10 gaming vlogs, or actually rather 12 gaming vlogs. I have done that. I haven't made any of them yet. Hopefully we'll be changing that up here in the next week or so. After that was brainstorming 12 writing vlogs. I've done that as well. I actually have a full list of vlogs to keep me going throughout the rest of the year. And after that was to refresh my YouTube channel, including posting videos every week, which I am now doing. Yeah, that was the next one, was to start uploading weekly vlogs. And the last goal on my list was to start blogging once a month. Now, I'd started blogging like several years ago, but it was always kind of more of a sporadic thing. I've never been very good at keeping up on it for a long time. So I figure let's go ahead and post the vlogs on there, as well as post a full blog post updating my writing every month or so. So that's what I'm doing now. The last one went up on the last 15th. And so, yeah, that is my entire goals list for the second quarter of 2017. As you can see, if you've been keeping along, I've completed 14 out of 24 goals. That's completion rate of about 58%. It's not great, but it's well enough to consider it a win in my book. Granted, most of the goals I met were more of a personal nature, with my inclination towards procrastination dragging down the writing section, but I'll do better next time. Here are my goals for the third quarter of the year, from July through September 2017. First up is to finish the rough draft for Bloodless. Like I mentioned earlier, I'm expecting only about 10 to 15,000 words, and if I can keep on my current pace, I should be done in a couple weeks. The next goal is to make a writing schedule and stick to it. I've got a early form of a schedule made for this next week. It's very hard for me to make a schedule far in advance because my actual day job, it has me on a flexible schedule, so it changes from week to week. However, at the moment, I'm thinking of setting aside a block of 3 hours every day to write as soon as I can, preferably before work. Sometimes it'll have to be after. and I'll probably have writing goals of about 1,500 words, so I can get about 10,000 words in a week. Next up is to brainstorm ideas for Bloodbound. Like I said, I have a very base idea for what I want the plot to be about, but I need a hell of a lot more ideas before I actually start outlining it, which is the next goal. After that is to brainstorm ideas for Haven. I already did some, I still need more, and that'll be followed up by outlining Haven. Once I've done those, I will do the first read-through of my manuscript for Bloodless, and I will identify any major issues I can. Pretty much any issue I can find that I can fix in the next draft, I will try to address and so on. And that will be the next goal, is to start the second draft of Bloodless. Now, I'm not setting any specific word goals or anything for that right now. I'll probably add to that as I get closer to it. Like once I start the draft, I'll take a look at the remaining time I have available to me and start setting goals for how much I expect to be able to finish in that time and so on. After that is research and critique partners and beta readers. It'll be very important after I've done my second draft to get my book out in the wild, to start seeing what people think and have them help me pick apart what's wrong with my book so I can continue forward. After that is to read 6 books. You can actually see my reading list right here on the shelf. That's what these books are right now. That is my current to-read list after I finish Words of Radiance. I hope I can finish all of them in about 3 months. I think I should be able to. None of them are as long as A Way of Kings and Words of Radiance, which are both 1,300 pages, so they're not huge like that, so I should be able to get through all 6 of them in that time. After that is to beat 15 games. Like I said earlier, I'm not going to be focusing so much on knocking down my backlog. Instead, I'll just be completing games in their entirety and just try to beat as many as I can. I will count individual DLC packs as part of this, only if they're significantly substantial. Early in the spring, I played The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt, and I was able to knock 8 items off of my backlog. There was the base game, there were 2 major expansions, and then there were 5 separate DLC quests. So hopefully I can do that again with other various games. Next up are a few personal goals. My sister is getting married in the fall, and she lives about 7 hours away, so I have to make reservations for the wedding. I have to plan out the rest of the trip since I'm going to be on vacation the following week after the wedding. I'm kind of planning on moseying my way back home, stopping at a few other places, and so I also need to make any other remaining reservations I need for my trip. A couple places I'm thinking of checking out are the Biltmore in North Carolina. It's a bit of a detour from where I need to go for the wedding, but it's a huge giant mansion. I've always been fascinated by those kinds of things, and as much as I will be there partially for fun, I can also chalk it up to a little bit of research for Bloodbound. I'm also planning on stopping in at a small town in western Pennsylvania on my way home, also for research for Bloodbound. The last goal on my list is to get a new laptop. Now, my old laptop is like almost a decade old at this point. It is a ginormous thing. It's not very portable. It's incredibly slow, especially compared to my desktop computer. And the battery doesn't hold a charge, which is ironic considering I paid extra for a larger battery when I bought it. It's actually right over here. Yeah, it's this thing here. It's gigantic. It's a huge 17-inch laptop. It's done me well over the years, but like I said, it's not very useful for me right now. I'm wanting something a little bit smaller, a little bit more portable, and also considerably faster. Now, I'm not really planning on doing much with it. Really, it's just going to be so I can write on the go, partially for the trip, partially for NaNoWriMo in November, and also so I can like write in coffee shops or at the laundromat and so on. So that's 15 goals to complete by the end of September, more than half of which are writing related. Once October starts, I'll make another video like this one, and we'll see just how well I've done. That's it for this week. I hope you've enjoyed the video. New vlogs go live every Sunday by 8 a.m. Eastern with new blog posts on the 15th of every month. You can find a link to the blog in the description down below, and please leave any comments and suggestions you might have. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time.